This episode was brought to you by World of Warships.
It's time to deliver the tier list that everyone's been asking for and that the world has really needed. Who are the hottest characters in SpongeBob? Now, I'm no lore expert on SpongeBob, so I'm just going to work under the assumption that every character on the list is over the age of 18, considering the majority of them have jobs in Bikini Bottom. I'm unfamiliar with Bikini Bottom's labor laws, but I'm going to assume that they're going to be 18 plus if they're holding down a job in Bikini Bottom. So, working under that assumption, let's dive right in. I'd like to begin with the core characters in the SpongeBob universe, so let's start with Mr. Krabs. I will be covering Mr. Krabs in the canon SpongeBob SquarePants timeline. I will not be examining the Mr. Krabs in the extended ketamine universe. The Mr. Krabs overdoses on ketamine and dies will be a separate Eugene. We're going to be focusing on Eugene Krabs as he appeared in the SpongeBob universe that aired on Nickelodeon. Now, as I'm sure you're all aware, Eugene loves two things: money and pussy. Eugene Krabs is piped at least once in his life because he has a daughter, so you know he's at least fucked once. Which is probably better than you could say for the majority of people in Bikini Bottom, since it seems a lot of them are virgins. I'm just going by simple observations made throughout the show. Also, Mr. Krabs has a very strong love of panties, as evident in the panty raid where he was huffing some fine drawers. He was going in on some sodden britches. It clearly wasn't Mr. Krabs' first rodeo snorting the fine aroma of some used panties. Mr. Krabs, I would speculate, was absolutely a stud during his heyday because even in his older age, he's definitely out of his prime, he's still an absolute catch. Also, Mr. Krabs has a fat ol' ass. His wagon means business. He's packing cake. I think this is an easy S tier. Mr. Krabs is absolutely one of the best looking characters in the show, and I think as you watch the show, you realize the kind of effect he has on the people around them. Everyone seems enamored with Mr. Krabs when he walks in the room. He just lights it up with his beauty. Easy S tier. And now it's time to talk about World of Warships. So I'm going to go ahead and let Jackson take it away because he's been addicted.
Hi, Jackson here. I bet you love the idea of sailing across the seven seas, the wind in your hair and the water at your back. Who wouldn't? Now how about we strap a whole bunch of enormous cannons to your seafaring vessel and fill that ocean with enemies to shoot at? Suddenly became somehow even cooler now, didn't it? That's World of Warships for you. Just when you think it can't get cooler, it does. World of Warships puts you in command of over 300 historically accurate ships that you're able to actually sail and control in beautiful, stunning, high-quality graphics. Seriously, this is the best way to take to the seas from the comfort of your own home. It's not all peaceful out there as you sail across the waves. You'll also be able to take part in exhilarating team-based sea battles. You'll need to put aside your sailing cap and instead don your thinking hat as you come up with different strategies and tactics with your teammates to sink your enemies before they sink you. At the end of the day, though, there is one thing that is for sure. You're guaranteed to feel like a nautical genius as you customize your battleship to perform how you want it to perform, and you'll enjoy sailing that baby across the many different oceanic environments. If you register your new account through the link in the description, you'll get an exclusive starter pack containing 200 doubloons, the St. Louis and Premium Emden ships, 20 Restless Fire camouflage cosmetics, 2.5 million credits, and 7 days of premium. So what are you waiting for? Set sail now with World of Warships.
So if you're interested in trying World of Warships, you're more than welcome to click the link in the description below to get going on your massive adventure. Now let's take a look at SpongeBob. SpongeBob is one of the hardest ones to put on the tier list here because SpongeBob's been able to prove that he can pretty much change his physique whenever he wants. He has this uncanny ability to work hard as fuck like an anime protagonist to get jacked, as we've seen him do. He's the only fry cook in town that's mastered the art of the Krabby Patty, so you know he's cooking some fine cuisine if you ever happen to be dating SpongeBob. I really just think he has all the qualities that can make a girl's barnacles dirty when they see him. I definitely think SpongeBob would absolutely be slain if he wanted to, but since he reproduces by budding, I imagine his libido is extremely low. But I definitely think that SpongeBob should be A tier. I think S tier is a little exaggeration because he still does have some childish qualities about him. Like he plays with bubbles. Like I haven't played with bubbles since I was a child. You know, I'm a big fucking strong man. I got hair on my nutsack. SpongeBob, he's playing with bubbles and shit. Like there's definitely some things that I think wouldn't make him stand out as like a very top tier high-level alpha male in Bikini Bottom, but I definitely think he's up there. I think A tier fits comfortably there. And now we move on to Patrick Star. I think Patrick Star is an easier one to put on the tier list here because the show doesn't really make any attempts to portray him as like a Casanova type or anything like that. It usually just makes him seem really fucking dumb. Occasionally moments of genius and brilliance, and we've even seen him get jacked before too, looking like something right out of Baki the Grappler. So he does have the ability to evolve to a new level, but just baseline Patrick Star, I think C tier is where he should sit. And now next up we have Squidward, the master of the clarinet. I think Squidward's got a lot to offer. I think not only is he a real stunning man to look at, and that's not even when he's in his handsome Squidward mode, I just think Squidward makes for a really good lover. You know, he's got a million fucking tentacles out there. We've seen him use them in all kinds of crazy ways. Like, this guy is basically any weeb's wet dream. He could actually make hentai happen for you in the bedroom. And of course, we need to mention handsome Squidward, where he looked like the perfect man. When Squidward was in handsome mode, he looked like what God intended men to look like. He was really on a whole new level compared to all the other Sigma males in Bikini Bottom, so I'm just gonna go ahead and slap Squidward at an S tier. Next up, we have Sandy Cheeks. I believe in the entire SpongeBob show, she has the most porn drawn of her, which probably tells you something. Sandy Cheeks, I think, is a very high-level hot character in SpongeBob. Sandy can often be seen wearing a bikini in the show, and then, whew, good lord, I don't remember my first erection, but I wouldn't be surprised to learn that it was during a SpongeBob episode with Sandy Cheeks rocking that fine two-piece, I'll tell you what. I think this is a no-brainer. Sandy Cheeks has to sit in an S tier. She was like Nickelodeon's first waifu, furry waifu. Next up, we have the hash-slinging slasher. This one's easy. You know, the hash-slinging slasher had a lot of hype, you know? This mysterious man with a spatula for a hand, like, holy fuck, what a mysterious badass. You know he was going to be packing some fat meat, or at least you would think. And then, you know, the lights come on, Nosferatu turns out to be the one flickering it, not him, and then you get a reveal of the actual hash-slinging slasher, and he's a fucking dweeb. Like, he's this nerd. I was surprised Squidward didn't walk over, give him a wedgie, and then make him do his homework for him or something and just spit on him. Like, the hash-slinging slasher was revealed to just be a giant geek. So, you know, he's definitely not hot. I mean, it's kind of cool that he's like a little dinosaur-looking thing. Like, he kind of looks like Yoshi with a spatula. So, I mean, that's kind of cool. And I think that's enough to save him from the F tier. I'm giving the hash-slinging slasher a D. Next up, we have Karen Plankton, which is a sex robot that Plankton made and married. And I have to say, I don't think it's Karen's fault, but I don't think she's very high tier. I think she has a great personality, and I think she's been programmed very well, but just the actual casing that she's in, I think is just suboptimal for fucking. Like, there's no orifices for Plankton to put his cock in, so she's unable to really function as the sex robot that he designed her to be. But it's not her fault, because she didn't ask to just be like a computer on a stick, right? Like, I just think if Plankton had gone back to the drawing board, put some big honkers on it, like some milkers, I think Karen really could have been something big in the SpongeBob sex robot universe that they're clearly trying to launch there, the side arc. But they played it a little too safe with Karen, and I don't think she was able to really reach that top tier level. So I'm just going to place Karen at a C tier because I think she's got a wonderful personality with a lot of potential. And I would love to see the SpongeBob cast and creators try and tackle a different kind of sex robot in the show, perhaps. And now, naturally following Karen, we're going to go ahead and look at Plankton. I think Plankton's got a lot to offer. I think he's a great height. As most people know, the shorter the better. So Plankton, I think, has that going for him, being at that nice, petite level. He doesn't really have a whole lot of muscle definition, and he only has one eye, but I think he's got a beautiful eye. I think he's really... you know, granted, he does suffer from a bit of a anger problem, but other than that, I think Plankton just... looking at the guy, you can't help but just be taken aback by how good he looks, and I think it's because of his stature. Being short really helps in the dating world, as most of you know, and that's definitely Plankton's strongest suit, so I'm going to give Plankton B tier. Next up, we have Mrs. Puff, and I'll tell you what, she will make those pants puff up. She is so kawaii. Mrs. Puff, I think, is just absolutely spectacular. She is gorgeous. And it's no wonder that she's won the heart of Eugene multiple times. You know, she can be a bit strict when it comes to boating, but I think that's good. I think you'd want that. She's just wonderful, really. If you don't think Mrs. Puff deserves to be an S tier, then you're a fucking psychopath. I don't know what to tell you. Next up, we're just gonna speed run this one because it's easy. Larry the Lobster, S tier. Do I even need to explain it? Man's buff as fuck. He's literally a lobster, so he's basically immortal in the first place. He's also super nice. He's just like the nicest fucking guy in Bikini Bottom, despite easily being the strongest. That man could snap anyone in Bikini Bottom in half and then eat their fucking bones. Like, Larry the Lobster could easily run this shit if he wanted to, but he chooses not to. He's just a law-abiding good guy. He just likes to hang out, party, you know, do some fucking Budweiser butt chugs. Like, he's just a guy that likes to have some fun, who also happens to be an absolute alpha. Easy S tier for Larry. Next up we have Flats the Flounder. This guy's just got a bad attitude. This man's been hanging out on Twitter for too long. He's just got a chip on his shoulder, mad about everything. He looks like a fucking traffic cone. This is an easy one. Flats absolutely living in that F tier all day. Next up we have Bubble Bass. Bubble Bass was of course famous for hiding the pickles under his tongue. He was just a big scam artist. This guy, I was surprised, didn't start preaching about atheism. He looks like kind of a Redditor, infiltrated Bikini Bottom and tried to cause some chaos. There's not a whole lot to like about Bubble Bass. I think this one, without even needing to dive deeper into the lore of Bubble Bass, it's clear why he would be in the F tier. Now it's time to look at David Hasselhoff from the SpongeBob movie. The Hoff is a pretty hard one to rank. I think David Hasselhoff is definitely above the C tier at bare minimum, especially when you look at classic prime time David Hasselhoff when he was eating cheeseburgers off of the bathroom floor, back when David Hasselhoff was synonymous with sex god, and he was at the top of the food chain, top of his game. When he entered the Goofy Goober SpongeBob movie, he was looking real fucking good, putting them in between his giant bulging titty muscles, those pecs closing in like a fucking missile silo and launching the crew. I think David Hasselhoff is absolutely A tier. The only reason he's not S tier is because we didn't get to see enough of him. I just wish we got to see more of David Hasselhoff in the SpongeBob universe, really. There's so many other characters in SpongeBob that I believe should be put on a hottest characters tier list, but they'd be like 2 hours long, so I'm just going to go ahead and stop it here because I think these would be the most highly requested ones to see where they'd accurately rank on a tier list of sexiness. So yeah, anyway, that's about it. See ya.